What if the first step towards civilization was not bread, but beer? Picture yourself inside a dark cave 13,000 years ago. A stone bowl bubbles with a strange drink made from wild grain. You take one sip. The taste is unfamiliar. Minutes later, laughter echoes through the cave. This happened at Rafet Cave in Israel, where archaeologists uncovered the world's oldest known evidence of beer, brewed thousands of years before agriculture. But here's the real mystery. Why would hunter-gatherers spend days making beer before they even became farmers? Did alcohol simply entertain our ancestors? Or did it help build the first human civilization? Millions of years before the first brewery, alcohol was already waiting in the forest. Ripe fruit naturally fermented after falling to the ground, releasing the sweet scent of ethanol into the air. To most animals, it was simply another smell. But for our ancient ancestors, it became a signal worth following. Biologist Robert Dudley proposed the drunken monkey hypothesis, suggesting that early primates evolved to seek out lightly fermented fruit because it contained more calories than fresh fruit. Instead of fearing alcohol, they learned to benefit from it. The evidence reaches even deeper. Around 10 million years ago, the common ancestor of humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas evolved a more efficient version of the enzyme ADA4, allowing the body to break down ethanol far more effectively. This adaptation suggests that fermented fruit was becoming a regular part of the diet, not an occasional accident. Modern animals still tell the same story. In the rainforests of Malaysia, the tiny pen-tailed tree shrew drinks naturally fermented palm nectar containing about 4% alcohol almost every night, yet shows no signs of intoxication. In Panama, scientists observed spider monkeys deliberately choosing fruit containing 1 to 2% alcohol. Chemical analysis later confirmed they were not simply tasting ethanol. They were metabolizing it for energy. Perhaps the first drink in human history was never raised in celebration. It was picked from the forest floor as another meal, beginning a relationship with alcohol that would one day reshape the world. What do you think? Was alcohol an evolutionary advantage, or the beginning of humanity's longest love-hate relationship? If alcohol began in the forest, the next chapter began inside a cave. Back at Rafet Cave, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary. Deep stone mortars carved into the cave floor still contained microscopic traces of starch, plant residue, and fermentation byproducts. Together, they revealed a surprisingly sophisticated brewing process. Wild wheat and barley were first soaked until they sprouted, then crushed, heated into a thick mash, and finally left to ferment into a primitive beer. But the most remarkable discovery was not the recipe. It was the purpose. This beer was never meant for casual drinking. Evidence suggests the Natufian people brewed it for funeral feasts, honoring the dead and bringing the living together during sacred ceremonies. Long before temples, kingdoms, or written religion, fermented grain had already become part of ritual and community. That discovery sparked one of archaeology's most fascinating debates. What if beer came before bread? Some researchers argue that the desire for a reliable supply of beer encouraged people to gather and eventually cultivate wild cereals. Instead of agriculture creating beer, beer may have helped inspire agriculture itself. If true, one simple fermented drink may have changed the course of human history by encouraging people to settle, farm, and build permanent communities. The idea remains a hypothesis rather than a proven fact. Yet it forces us to ask a remarkable question. Did civilization grow from our hunger for food, or from our desire to share a drink together? While people in the Near East were experimenting with beer, another remarkable discovery was taking shape thousands of kilometers away. Around 9,000 years ago, in the Neolithic village of Jiahu in China's Yellow River Valley, ancient potters left behind sealed ceramic jars that would preserve an incredible secret for millennia. When biomolecular archaeologist Dr. Patrick McGovern analyzed the residue inside them, he uncovered one of the world's oldest intentionally crafted fermented drinks. This was no simple rice wine. The recipe blended rice, honey, grapes, or hawthorn fruit, creating what many researchers describe as a prehistoric cocktail. It required planning, experimentation, and an understanding of fermentation that went far beyond accident. These early villagers were not just discovering alcohol. They were designing flavor. The discovery at Jiahu revealed something profound. Communities separated by thousands of kilometers, with no known contact, were independently exploring the same mysterious process of fermentation. It seems that curiosity, creativity, and the desire to gather around a special drink were universal parts of early human culture. Perhaps fermentation was more than chemistry. It became a language shared by civilizations that had never met. What do you think? If you had lived 9,000 years ago, would you have dared to taste Jayahu's ancient drink? Let us know in the comments before we uncover how beer helped strangers become the world's first great builders. If beer helped create rituals, could it also have helped build monuments? That question leads us to Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a breathtaking sanctuary built nearly 12,000 years ago. Massive stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, were carved, transported, and raised centuries before the invention of pottery or organized farming. How could scattered bands of hunter-gatherers accomplish such an enormous task? Archaeologists discovered enormous limestone troughs capable of holding up to 160 liters of liquid. Inside, they found calcium oxalate, a chemical residue commonly left behind when grain is fermented into beer. While the exact use of these vessels is still debated, many researchers believe they were used to prepare large quantities of fermented drinks for communal feasts. Anthropologists call this a work feast. Instead of paying workers with money, leaders rewarded hundreds of volunteers with food, beer, music, and celebration. A similar tradition survived into modern times on Indonesia's island of Nias, where entire villages gathered to move giant stones only after being promised an enormous feast. Biology may explain why this worked. Alcohol can stimulate the release of endorphins, helping people feel more relaxed, connected, and trusting toward one another. Shared drinking may have strengthened cooperation, turning strangers into teammates capable of achieving extraordinary goals. Do you think humanity's greatest monuments were built by strength alone? Or by the bonds created around shared meals and shared drinks? Tell us your thoughts below. As civilizations grew, beer became far more than a drink. In ancient Mesopotamia, workers were often paid with daily beer rations. The Sumerians even worshipped Ninkasi, the goddess of beer, and a hymn dedicated to her doubled as one of the oldest brewing recipes ever recorded. Beer was considered everyday food, while wine symbolized wealth and power. The same pattern appeared in ancient Egypt. Pyramid builders drank nutritious beer as part of their daily diet, but fine wine was reserved for pharaohs and the elite. Some royal wine jars were even labeled with the harvest year, vineyard, and winemaker. Much like premium wines today, alcohol was also regulated by law. Under the Code of Hammurabi, dishonest tavern keepers who cheated customers faced severe punishment, showing that beer had become too important to leave unregulated. From sacred ritual to daily wages and written laws, alcohol had become woven into the fabric of civilization itself. Do you think beer shaped history more than we usually give it credit for? Share your opinion before we reach the surprising legacy it has left us today. The next time you raise a glass, remember, you are taking part in a tradition that began long before cities, kingdoms, or even farming. From fermented fruit in ancient forests to the first beer brewed at Rakefet Cave, from sacred rituals to the builders of great monuments, alcohol has traveled beside humanity for millions of years. If you enjoyed this journey into our ancient past, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What ancient mystery should we explore next? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next documentary.